Okay, hello everybody. Today we're here in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 in the Cessna 152. We have a 76 nautical mile flight from Mike Delta Tango, Harrisburg International, to Alpha Bravo Echo, Lehigh Valley International. We'll be flying VFR using real weather and real time, which is going to play a very important part in today's flight. It's such a big part that we're going to start out in the airport instead of hopping into the plane, and I'll tell you why in a bit. But first I'll tell you why we're flying out of Harrisburg, and it requires my real life sectional. Sectionals expire every 3 months. If you look at this one, it expires in July 11th, so it's expired now. And if you open it up, you can see that Harrisburg is a Class Delta airport with gray circles around it, which are a TIRSA. You'll find TIRSAs around some Class Deltas. They are kind of like Class Charlie lights. The airport almost got big enough to become a Class Charlie at some point in the past, but never quite made it, so they ended up with the approach rings around it, but they're optional as a TIRSA. Now fast forward 3 days to the present, open up for flight, and look at the sectional, and Harrisburg is a Class Charlie. It has magenta around it. It's been upgraded from a Delta to a Charlie. So now we have 2 Class Charlies in my area, and we're going to fly between both of them. When you plan a cross-country flight, you usually get the weather the day before or the morning of, and then you'll go and get the weather again right before you take off. So here's the flight brief that I did when I planned this. If you look at the timestamp of the iPad in the upper left-hand corner, it's 11:30 a.m. when I planned this, and now it's about 1:30. The weather was 300 at 5 knots, view 4,200 and 10,000. Future weather, we've got some rain coming in around 4 p.m., but still light winds and just light rain, so it's still VFR weather. If we go over to Lehigh Valley and tap on it, you can see that the current weather is light winds, broken 7,500, future weather, variable at 3, skies clear, with high clouds at 25,000 later on in the day. If we look at the surface analysis forecast, we can see that there is a warm front right here over Pennsylvania. If we look at the cloud coverage, right where that front is where the clouds are, but everything around it is skies clear or high cirrus clouds. If you look at the winds, it lines up with the forecast that half a barb is 5 knots, so 5 knots out of the west. Light winds, skies clear, just a little clump of clouds right around where we're at. So like any good pilot, I arrive at the airport and check the weather again before departing. 2 hours has gone by, and we've got a clump of clouds with some heavy rain just to the north of our flight path, and uh-oh, that's not good. That's thunderstorms, that's hail. That's hail right there, and the big red is heavy rain and thunderstorms with convective activity. So if we hit the animation button, we could see it's going pretty much eastward right through my flight path. So we cannot fly through that. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go over to Starbucks here, grab ourselves a cup of coffee, boot up the laptop, kill some time, and hope the weather gets better. See you in 2 hours. All right, 2 hours of real life time has actually gone by because I'm waiting for the real life weather to get better. And let's do our flight brief once again and check how the weather looks. Somewhat better. You can see that the thunderstorms are no longer in our flight path. We're at scattered 4,000 and 6,000 for Harrisburg. If we go to Allentown, we are at few 7,000, light winds at both. If we drop a ruler here, we can see that the thunderstorms are about 20 miles south of our flight path, and that's really the minimum distance you want. You want 20 miles of clearance between you and the thunderstorms. If we animate them, they are traveling southeast, so they're probably going to continue further and further away from our flight path. Now, in real life, probably isn't good enough for me for thunderstorms. I still wouldn't do this. But since we're in the sim, we're going to take a little bit of risk, but we're going to mitigate the risk by changing our flight path. So instead of going direct, we're going to go direct to Jake Arner Memorial. I'm going to use this waypoint right up here, 22 November. So now when we do that, we're flying a parallel path to the track of the thunderstorms, and we're about 40 nautical miles away from where the thunderstorms are. And now we can drop new waypoints. So this is a nice town here of Palmyra. Next we've got Lebanon, good waypoint. Next we've got a crossing. Continue on here, and we've got another crossing. Continue on here, and we've got another crossing. Then we're at Jake Arner, and Jake Arner's our decision point. We'll get the weather there, and if we still don't like it, we can divert. We've got Hazleton just to our northwest, or Wilkes-Barre Scranton International, which has a class Delta, and the weather is fine as you head up north. So either of those are excellent choices for our diversion. So we'll start by getting the window open. Next we'll head down here. Parking brake is set, primer's in and locked, battery alternator off, all switches are off, car beats in, throttle is idle, mixture to idle cutoff, flaps are up. We'll check that our trim is set to the takeoff position. We'll head down here and get our fuel selector to on. Next we will turn on the beacon, clear prop, check that the prop is clear, turn on the battery and the alternator, check fuel quantity left, right. We've got nearly full fuel tanks, which is good for our destination and our diversion. We'll bring in the mixture to full rich. We'll crack the throttle, prime it 1, 2, 3 strokes of the primer. Feet on the brakes. Keys are in the starter. Check that the prop area is clear once again. Crank it over. And it didn't start. Try that again. Sounds like it's not getting any fuel. Oh, because when I thought I opened it, I actually closed the fuel selector valve. So let's open that and try it again. There we go. We've got oil pressure. That's already in the green. RPMs are at 1,000. That looks good. So now we can lean the mixture for ground operations. And close the window to make it a little bit less noisy. Get the real-world ATIS through sayintentions.ai.
Harrisburg International Airport, Information Victor. 1856 Zulu. Wind 341 at 6. Visibility 10. Sky conditions, scattered at 4000 feet. Scattered at 8000 feet. Temperature 34. Dew point 19er. Altimeter 299er7. Arriving and departing runway 31. Visual approaches in use. Advise on course heading, altitude, and if flight following is requested. Read back all runway and hold short instructions. Advise on initial contact. You have information Victor.
UPS 90763 Harrisburg ground taxi to parking on the west ramp via Alpha Monitor Tower on 124.8 when off the active taxiway. Taxi to parking on the west ramp via Alpha Monitor Tower on 124.8 when off the active taxiway. UPS 9763.
Harrisburg ground says Cessna 565 Whiskey is a C152 Slant Alpha. We'd like flight following destination Lehigh Valley Alpha Bravo Echo at 3,500 with information Victor.
Negative ground, we want taxi to parking.
Cessna 565 Whiskey, Harrisburg ground, I'm working on that clearance. Stand by. Cessna 565 Whiskey, Harrisburg ground, on departure, maintain VFR at or below 3,500 feet. Departure on 126.45, squawk 6743.
On departure, maintain VFR at or below 3,500, departure 126.45, squawk 6743, Cessna 565 Whiskey.
Cessna 65 Whiskey, read back correct.
Harrisburg ground, Cessna 565 Whiskey AV flight, taxi for northeast departure with information Victor.
Cessna 65 Whiskey, runway 31, taxi via Alpha Bravo 1.
Taxi runway 31 via Alpha Bravo 1, Cessna 565 Whiskey. Alright, we'll get going. I will test my brakes. They work. We're going to hang a right here and look for a taxi line to pick up to navigate our way to Alpha. This is Payware Scenery by Sierra Sim. It's pretty nice. You can see that the interior is modeled so you can wander around the terminal, or in our case, chill out, drink some coffee, and bide some time on a laptop while we're waiting for the weather to clear up. Speaking of the weather, you can see those clouds there, but I think they are going to cooperate because we'll be flying at 3,500 and everything looks like it's 4,000 or higher. So we'll stop here at the hold short lines, do a quick run up, do our mag check, got a good drop on the mags. Harrisburg Tower, Cessna 565 Whiskey holding short runway 31, ready for departure.
Cessna 565 Whiskey, Harrisburg Tower, winds 341 at 6, runway 31, cleared for takeoff.
Cleared for takeoff, runway 31, Cessna 565 Whiskey. Alright, mixtures in, transponder to alt, landing lights on, release the parking brake. We were clear on our left and right, and here we go. Alright, it's been a while since I've flown the C152. It's definitely my favorite aircraft. This is the JP Logistics mod, which makes it much more realistic. And it probably flies the most like the real-life Cessna Skyhawk M's that I fly. So we started here on the displaced threshold, which you can taxi and take off from, you just can't land on. And we should be departing the runway now, but it's really struggling to go up. Now in real life I would reject the takeoff right here, because something's clearly wrong. I know what's wrong though, now that we're in the air. What's wrong is I have a trim wheel that's built into my Turtle Beach Velocity 1 flight stick, and if you don't move the trim wheel, where the trim is set in the aircraft is not synced up with the trim wheel. So the first time you touch the trim wheel, suddenly the trim will just jump up, and I must have touched the trim wheel there, so in this case it jumped way nose down. So I had all this nose down trim in there, which was keeping me from taking off. And when we finally pitched up, I just rolled it back.
Cessna 65 Whiskey, contact departure.
Over to departure, Cessna 565 Whiskey. Harrisburg approach, Cessna 565 Whiskey, 1,800, climbing 3,500.
Cessna 565 Whiskey, Harrisburg approach, radar contact.
Alright, we're on track. Let's sit back and enjoy that awesome flight simulator scenery.
Cessna 65 Whiskey, contact New York Center on 132.2.
Over to center on 132.2, Cessna 565 Whiskey. New York Center, Cessna 565 Whiskey, level 3,500.
Cessna 565 Whiskey, New York Center. Good afternoon, altimeter 29.904.
290904, Cessna 565 Whiskey.
Maintain 4,000, right 290, TR 2675.
Alright, we're coming up on our decision point. Let's dial in the ATIS and see if we are a go for the weather.
Lehigh Valley International Airport, information X-ray. 1751 Zulu. Wind calm. Visibility 10. Sky conditions, clear.
Weather is good, so we're a go. We're going to continue on and turn southeast to Allentown.
Cessna 65 Whiskey, contact Allentown Tower on 120.5.
Over to tower on 120.5, Cessna 565 Whiskey.
6471, descend and maintain flight level 260.
Allentown Tower, Cessna 565 Whiskey, 11 miles northwest at 3,500 inbound for full stop with information X-ray.
Cessna 565 Whiskey, Allentown Tower, enter left downwind for runway 6.
Enter left downwind, runway 6, Cessna 565 Whiskey.
Allentown approach, Cirrus 54 Foxtrot Alpha requests the ILS runway 13 from Asus. Cirrus 5 Foxtrot Alpha, Allentown Tower, turn left, heading 110. Cessna 65 Whiskey, winds calm, runway 6 cleared to land.
Runway 6 cleared to land, Cessna 565 Whiskey.
7, runway 19er cleared for takeoff.
Baltimore, exit at Romeo Fable, contact ground 121.9.
Honda Jet 5 Mike, contact departure on 126.7. Cessna 65 Whiskey, welcome to Allentown. Exit at Bravo if able. Contact ground on 121.9er.
Over to ground on 121.9er, Cessna 565 Whiskey. Allentown ground, Cessna 565 Whiskey, clear runway 6 at Bravo, taxi to general aviation parking.
Cessna 565 Whiskey, Allentown ground, taxi to General Aviation Park via Alpha Bravo 1.
Taxi parking Alpha Bravo 1, Cessna 565 Whiskey. Alright, as we roll in here, we can do our debrief. So I hope you enjoyed the real-life weather planning and the go-no decisions that came along with it. Sometimes it's hard when you want to fly and you're using live weather to wait for the weather, but I think it was kind of a cool thing to do because it's how I would really do it. I did a recent poll where I asked my viewers what type of content they wanted, and it was split 50-50 between scenic VFR montages and more ATC interaction, so I tried to give you both with this flight, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you did enjoy it, be sure to click that like button, leave me a comment, and don't forget to subscribe. Thanks, as always, for flying along with me, and stay tuned for further flight adventures.